Delta crash. On February 17, 2025, a Delta Airlines flight from Minneapolis was involved in a tragic accident while attempting to land at Toronto Pearson International Airport. Here's a detailed look at the events leading up to the crash and what investigators know so far. Delta Flight 4819, operated by Endeavour Air, was en route from Minneapolis to Toronto Pearson. The aircraft was a Bombardier CRJ-900, a regional jet typically used for short-haul routes. FAA records show that the CRJ-900 was about 16 years old at the time. On board were 80 people in total, 4 crew members and 76 passengers. The region had recently faced heavy snow and lingering icy conditions after 2 back-to-back winter storms. Toronto Pearson itself was battling gusty winds and blowing snow throughout the afternoon. At the time, winds were reported at 32 mph, gusting to 40, but no major crosswinds were noted. Runway conditions were rated as a 5 on a scale from 1 to 6, just below dry, indicating relatively good braking action despite the harsh weather. Toronto Tower cleared the aircraft to land on runway 23, warning the pilots of a slight bump on the glide path due to preceding traffic. The crew acknowledged and continued their approach. Shortly after, Flight 4819 began its final descent into Toronto Pearson. The approach remained stable as the pilots managed their speed and altitude carefully. However, in the final few seconds before touchdown, things went wrong. The aircraft suddenly hit the runway much harder than anticipated. The right main landing gear struck first, followed immediately by the right wing making contact with the surface. The impact caused the jet to veer sharply off course, and within moments, it flipped upside down. In an instant, a normal landing attempt turned into a catastrophic event. The force of the impact tore away parts of the tail and one of the wings. Inside the cabin, passengers found themselves hanging upside down, desperately unbuckling their seatbelts and trying to escape amid chaos and debris. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, helping passengers exit through emergency openings. Thanks to the quick actions of the flight crew and first responders, all 80 people on board survived, though 18 sustained injuries. Miraculously, none were life-threatening. Investigators believe the harsh wind gusts and runway conditions may have contributed to the crash, though mechanical or sensor issues haven't been ruled out. Both Canadian and US authorities are working jointly, with the Transportation Safety Board of Canada leading and the NTSB assisting. This incident marks another addition to a troubling series of aviation events in recent months. What if the pilots had initiated a go-around after the initial hard impact instead of continuing the landing? A decision to climb and re-attempt the approach could have prevented the flip and drastically changed the outcome of Flight 4819. Just weeks earlier, on January 29, 2025, PSA Airlines Flight 5222 was approaching Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport when tragedy struck. The aircraft had taken off from Wichita earlier that evening, carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members. The captain had 6 years of experience with PSA Airlines, while the first officer had nearly 2. The flight was routine and uneventful, with favorable weather and clear visibility. Meanwhile, a US Army UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter, callsign PAP-25, was conducting a night training mission nearby. The helicopter, with 3 crew members aboard, was performing a low-altitude maneuver evaluation over the Potomac River, a mission requiring strict altitude control and coordination with air traffic control. The Black Hawk was assigned to stay at or below 200 feet while following Route 1 before transitioning to Route 4. These designated paths intersect several approach and departure routes near Reagan National, demanding careful management from controllers. However, on that night, Reagan Tower was understaffed. Only one controller was responsible for managing both airplane and helicopter traffic, a duty typically split between 2 individuals during busy periods. The controller initially cleared Flight 5322 to land on runway 1, but later reassigned it to runway 33, requiring a tight maneuver toward a shorter runway. This turn brought the aircraft's path directly across the Black Hawk's flight corridor. As the jet began its final turn, the Black Hawk continued its mission along the Potomac. When asked by ATC if they had the CRJ in sight, the helicopter crew confirmed visual contact, But later investigation revealed that crucial words like "pass behind" may not have been heard clearly due to overlapping transmissions. Visibility challenges compounded the risk. The helicopter crew wore night vision goggles, which enhanced darkness perception but restricted peripheral vision and made judging distance more difficult. The CRJ's forward-facing landing lights also made it harder to see from the side. As both aircraft closed in, Reagan Tower's conflict alert sounded. The controller attempted to issue a warning, but by then, it was too late. The Black Hawk was flying at approximately 325 feet, above its assigned altitude, possibly due to an inaccurate altimeter reading. Seconds later, the two aircraft collided mid-air. The Black Hawk disintegrated instantly, while the CRJ lost control and plunged into the Potomac River less than a mile from the runway. Emergency responders from multiple agencies rushed to the scene, but tragically, all 67 lives were lost. The crash became the deadliest US aviation disaster in over a decade and a half. But what if Reagan Tower had assigned separate controllers that night, one for airplanes and one for helicopters? Dividing responsibilities could have reduced workload, improved coordination, and prevented the communication breakdown that ultimately